Imagine doing everything society told you to do. You studied hard, graduated from college, found a stable job, worked overtime, avoided unnecessary risks, paid your taxes, saved a little every month. Yet somehow, at the end of every year, you still feel like you're running in place. Your salary is higher than it was 5 years ago, but so are your bills. Your savings account grows painfully slowly. Buying a home feels more impossible than ever. Retirement keeps moving further into the future. So what happened? Were you simply unlucky? Or is there something about the financial system that almost no one talks about?
Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The middle class isn't poor because they don't work hard. In fact, they're often the hardest working people in society. The real problem is that they've been taught to play a game whose rules changed decades ago. And by the time most people realize it, they're already trapped. Today, we're going to uncover the invisible cycle that keeps millions of middle-class families working harder every year while building surprisingly little wealth. And once you see it, you'll never look at money the same way again.
Let's start with a simple question. What does society tell us success looks like? From childhood, we're given a very clear roadmap. Study hard, get good grades, go to college, find a secure job, work for 40 years, save your money, buy a house, retire comfortably. For generations, this formula actually worked. Back then, housing was affordable, college tuition wasn't overwhelming, healthcare costs were manageable. A single income could often support an entire family. Most importantly, wages grew alongside productivity. If workers produced more value, they generally earned more money. The middle class expanded. Families accumulated wealth. Children often lived better than their parents. It felt like progress was almost guaranteed.
But somewhere along the way, the equation changed. Today, millions of people are following the exact same roadmap, yet the destination looks completely different. Housing prices have exploded. Education has become dramatically more expensive. Basic living expenses continue rising year after year. Meanwhile, wages have struggled to keep up. Many people receive annual raises, but after inflation, those raises often disappear before they ever improve your life. It's like trying to climb an escalator that's moving downward. You're walking, you're sweating, you're making progress, but somehow you never seem to reach the top. And that's where the trap begins. Because when people notice they're falling behind, they rarely question the system. Instead, they blame themselves. I need to work harder. I need another degree. I need to take more overtime. I need a better paying job. Sometimes those things help. But for many people, higher income doesn't solve the underlying problem. It simply makes the trap more expensive. And that's exactly what we'll uncover next. Most people believe that making more money automatically leads to becoming wealthy. It sounds logical. If you earn twice as much, you should save twice as much, right? But reality tells a very different story. Imagine two people. The first earns $50,000 a year. The second earns $100,000. Who do you think is wealthier? Most people would immediately choose the second person. But income and wealth are not the same thing. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you keep. And that's where millions of people unknowingly fall into one of the biggest financial traps in modern society. It's called lifestyle inflation. Here's how it works. You get a raise. You tell yourself you've earned it, so you upgrade your apartment. You finance a newer car. You buy a better phone. You start eating out more often. Vacations become more expensive. Your monthly subscriptions quietly multiply. None of these purchases seem outrageous on their own. In fact, they feel completely reasonable. After all, you're making more money now. But little by little, something dangerous happens. Your expenses rise almost as fast as your income. Then another raise comes, and the cycle repeats. 5 years later, you're earning significantly more than before, yet your bank account barely looks different. Not because you failed, but because your new lifestyle quietly absorbed every extra dollar. This is exactly why some people earning $60,000 have more financial freedom than people earning $200,000. Because freedom isn't determined by income. It's determined by the gap between what you earn and what you spend. Now, here's where things become even more interesting. Modern society is designed to encourage this behavior. Everywhere you look, someone is trying to convince you that your current life isn't good enough. A newer car, a bigger house, a luxury vacation, designer clothes, the latest smartphone. Advertisements don't simply sell products, they sell identities. They whisper the same message over and over again. You'll feel successful once you own this. But that feeling rarely lasts. Within weeks, the excitement fades. The purchase becomes normal, and suddenly, another upgrade seems necessary. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. No matter how much your life improves, your expectations rise just as quickly. You're constantly chasing a version of happiness that keeps moving further away. And many people spend decades running on that treadmill without realizing they're standing in the same place. Here's the irony. The middle class often works incredibly hard to appear financially successful, while the truly wealthy often focus on quietly becoming financially independent. One group buys symbols of wealth. The other buys assets that create wealth. At first glance, they can look surprisingly similar, but over 20 years, the difference becomes enormous. And that's because of one powerful principle that most schools never teach. Money should work for you, not the other way around. In the next part, we'll uncover why the wealthy think about money completely differently, and how one simple shift in mindset can change the way you build wealth forever.
Here's a question that can completely change the way you think about money. If you stopped working tomorrow, how long could your current income continue? For most people, the answer is simple. It would stop immediately. No job, no paycheck, no income. And that's because the vast majority of the middle class exchanges one thing for money: time. Every hour worked produces another hour of income. At first, this seems perfectly normal. After all, that's how most people earn a living. But there's one major problem. Time is limited. No matter how ambitious you are, you only get 24 hours in a day. You can't work forever, you can't work while you're sleeping, and eventually, you can't work at all. The wealthy understand this better than anyone. Instead of asking, how can I earn more? They ask, how can my money earn more? That single shift changes everything. Imagine two friends. Both earn exactly the same salary. The first spends every extra dollar on things that lose value over time. The second uses part of that money to buy assets that have the potential to generate future income. At first, their lives look almost identical. They drive similar cars, they live in similar neighborhoods, they even have similar jobs. But 5 years later, something starts to change. The first person still depends entirely on their paycheck. The second now has investments slowly producing additional income. 10 years later, the gap becomes impossible to ignore. Not because one person was smarter, not because one worked harder, but because one was building income that didn't require showing up every single day. This is one of the biggest differences between earning money and building wealth. The middle class is often taught to focus on income. The wealthy focus on ownership. Ownership of businesses, ownership of investments, ownership of assets that have the potential to grow over time. That doesn't mean every investment succeeds. It doesn't mean every business becomes profitable. There are always risks. But over the long run, people who consistently own productive assets often have opportunities to grow wealth in ways that wages alone usually cannot. Now, think about your own life. Every month, money enters your bank account. Then, almost immediately, it starts leaving. Rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries, transportation, subscriptions, debt payments, entertainment. Before you realize it, most of your paycheck is already gone. The cycle repeats again and again
and again. This is sometimes called the paycheck treadmill. You're constantly moving, but you're moving in circles. The hardest part? The system feels normal because almost everyone around you is doing the exact same thing. Friends compare salaries, neighbors compare houses, coworkers compare cars. Very few people compare how much they actually own. Because real wealth is often invisible. Some of the wealthiest people don't look wealthy at all. And some of the people who appear wealthy are financing a lifestyle they can barely afford. Appearance and financial freedom are rarely the same thing. Once you understand that, you stop asking, how rich do they look? And start asking, how much freedom do they actually have? Because in the end, wealth isn't about buying more things. It's about buying more choices. And that may be the most valuable asset of all.
At this point, you might be thinking, so the problem is simply that people spend too much. Not exactly, because even those who are disciplined with their money face another challenge, one that works quietly, year after year: inflation. Most people think inflation just means things get more expensive, but its real impact is much deeper than that. Imagine you save $10,000. You don't spend it, you don't invest it, you simply leave it sitting in a bank account for years. The number on the screen doesn't change very much. It still says $10,000. But what that money can actually buy slowly begins to shrink. Maybe it buys a smaller house than before, maybe fewer groceries, maybe a less comfortable retirement. Your money didn't disappear, its purchasing power did. Now combine that with rising housing costs, healthcare expenses, education, insurance, and everyday necessities. Suddenly, people aren't just working to improve their lives, they're working just to maintain the lifestyle they already have. This is why so many families feel stuck. They're earning more than ever before, yet somehow it feels like they're constantly catching up instead of moving ahead. But inflation is only part of the story. The second force is debt. Debt itself isn't always bad. Businesses use debt, governments use debt. Even homeowners often use mortgages responsibly. The real danger begins when debt is used to finance a lifestyle instead of building a future. Think about how easy borrowing has become. A new car? Monthly payments. A vacation? Monthly payments. Furniture? Monthly payments. A phone? Monthly payments. Before long, your future income has already been promised to yesterday's purchases. Every paycheck arrives already spoken for. And that's when financial stress quietly becomes a permanent part of life. What's interesting is that these payments often feel small on their own. $25 a month, $60 a month, $120 a month. Individually, they don't seem like a problem. Together, they quietly consume the flexibility that wealth is supposed to create. Then an unexpected expense appears. The car breaks down. A medical bill arrives. Hours at work are reduced. Suddenly, a system that looked stable becomes incredibly fragile. This is why financial security isn't measured by how much someone earns. It's measured by how resilient they are when life doesn't go according to plan. And here's a truth that many people don't realize until much later. The goal isn't to earn enough money to buy everything you want. The goal is to build a financial life where unexpected problems don't become financial disasters. Because the people who become wealthy over time often aren't the ones making the most dramatic financial moves. They're the ones who consistently avoid the biggest financial mistakes. Small decisions, repeated over years, create extraordinary differences. Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. If the middle class is trapped by a cycle, how do you actually break free from it? So, if working harder isn't enough, and earning more doesn't automatically make you wealthy, what's the alternative? The answer isn't a secret investment. It isn't a miracle side hustle. And it definitely isn't a luxury lifestyle sold by social media. The real shift begins with changing how you define money. Most people see money as something to spend. Wealthy people often see money as a tool. Every dollar has a job. It can either buy today's comfort or tomorrow's freedom. That doesn't mean you should never enjoy your life. It means learning the difference between spending to impress others and spending to improve your future. Start by asking a simple question before every major purchase. Will this make me look wealthier or become wealthier? Sometimes the answer will surprise you.
The next step is creating space between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is where wealth is built. It doesn't have to be huge. What matters is consistency. Small amounts invested regularly over many years can grow into something far larger than most people expect. Not because of magic, but because time rewards consistency. The earlier that process begins, the more powerful it becomes. Another important lesson is to invest in skills that increase your value over time. Technology changes, industries evolve, new opportunities appear every year. The people who continue learning are often the people who continue growing. Your greatest asset isn't your paycheck, it's your ability to create value in a changing world. And finally, stop comparing your financial life to someone else's highlight reel. The internet is full of people showing expensive cars, luxury vacations, designer clothes, perfect homes. What you rarely see are the loans, the credit card balances, the financial stress, or the years of sacrifice behind genuine success. Real wealth is surprisingly quiet. It doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't need validation. Because financial freedom isn't about looking rich. It's about having choices. The choice to spend time with your family. The choice to walk away from a job you hate. The choice to take opportunities without fear. The choice to live life on your own terms. Maybe that's why so many people misunderstand wealth. They think it's measured by what others can see. But in reality, the most valuable part of wealth is often completely invisible. Peace of mind, freedom, security, time. Those are the things money can protect, but only if it's managed wisely.
So why does the middle class struggle to become rich? It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they aren't intelligent. And it's not because success is impossible. It's because many people are following a financial blueprint designed for a world that no longer exists. The good news? Once you recognize the pattern, you can start making different decisions. Not overnight, not with shortcuts, but one choice at a time. Because wealth is rarely built in a single moment. It's built through hundreds of small decisions, made consistently over many years. And maybe the first one starts today. If you found this video valuable, consider subscribing for more insights on money, psychology, and the hidden systems that shape our everyday lives. Because understanding the rules is the first step toward changing the outcome.